Thomas card with a sweet one, please. Someone flicks me a bag body. So, it's another one, yeah. It's a full run, yeah. Oh, it's another one, yeah.
All right, Monday evening. Good evening to all, whoever's joining us. I know start of the week, just probably had a horrible day at work, unless you're in local government like me and my special guest, blast from the past, Kenny Ken, 1972. Ken, missed you. It's been a year since me, you, Jay, and Joe Pugh used to do our shows in loving memory of the late, great Pro Bees over at Pep Talk. But you're back. His memory lives on. We'll keep talking boxing. But first of all, how you been this past year?
You know what? Yeah, because I think what's happening is that it was really a bad time when Pro Bees died because, 2 weeks before, 18 days before, 16 days before Pro Bees lost his life, my mum died as well. So, I remember Pro Bees saying, he said he'll be there for me and all that. And then, he just, what happened to him was just, still haven't got over the shock. It's shocking because, he brought us all together. He's a gooner as well. He knew quite a few people that I grew up with as well because they worked together. But, last year, obviously from a football point of view, Arsenal bottled the league. So I'm absolutely gutted. I don't think I can ever get over the defeat. Watching Man City win a Champions League was hard enough, but the fact that it should have been our title, we bottled it. I can't get over that, and it's going to take a lot to get over. But then again, Spurs have gone Australian now. Spurs is an Australian club, gone from like Portuguese, Italian, Australian.
I did tell you. Now you know how we feel for the past 40 years or longer. So, yeah.
Well, it's got to turn out great for you. It could turn out great for you. You know what I mean?
Got a few regulars have joined us. Bukayo Saka, big up to you. He remembers you. The regulars over here. Brilliant. They remember you. Obviously,
thank you
and Hazzy,
very much.
Both giving us condolences for Pro Bees. They obviously remembered his show, as he said. Really sad. One of my big regrets, I never got to meet him in person. But probably much like yourself, he almost introduced me to the world of boxing media. That was my first foray into coming onto a show and talking to fighters. It was Pro Bees who made that happen. So yeah, God rest his soul. God rest your mother's soul. Sad that life has to go on.
It 100% has to go on. You know what I mean? But the thing about it is that just as Pro Bees was, we all got together. We just coming out of lockdown. Getting full crowds in boxing. A lot's happened in a year since we've seen you. We've only got one British world heavyweight champion. We had before we all met. We had two. We had Joshua. It's got twice at Usyk. I was at the first fight at White Hart Lane. Sorry,
so was I.
I was there. It was a great performance by Usyk, and then obviously Anthony Joshua performed a lot better. But Usyk just had the Arsenal and the sort of like the speed of hand and foot to beat him, and then Tyson Fury just really messes around. I was at the Dillian White Tyson Fury fight last year. I'm kind of double booked where I had to pay about a package of about £900 where you had to book the hotel. If you booked the hotel, you were guaranteed a ticket. So you had to stay in a particular hotel. So we stayed in a hotel in the East End, and then we made our own way there, and it was traffic. They closed the Euston flyover. So a lot of things have happened. Katie Taylor's no longer unbeaten. Brilliant performance from Chantal Cameron.
Yeah.
Sonny Edwards is going strong in the flyweight division. Lee Wood retained his target against Lara. Chris Billing-Smith got loads to talk about, and then obviously, the Josh Taylor, which is going to be the main talk of our discussion. So boxing is just
absolutely
keeps happening.
Tony X, look, Ken, you got your fan base. Tony's happy to have you back. Just need Jay on the show. Tony, don't worry. This was actually meant to be Jay's show, the Monday night show. I think just some personal issues have come up, so it's just me and Ken. But yeah, Jay is meant to be running the Monday night show with, and me and Ken will just be there for the color commentary. So hopefully he will be. He might pop in later if he can.
Yeah.
But yeah. Is this weekly? We hope so. But you know what, Bukayo, life has a way of getting in the way of plans, but we'll do our best to do this weekly if we can. So, Kenny, what a weekend of boxing. 3 major shows. So there was one on Friday night, BT Sport. I was there, incidentally. Queensbury, since I started doing the reporting, Queensbury been very good to me. They generally let me in on all their shows. So we'll start there. David Adelaide. So it looks like Frank Warren is following the tried and tested formula. He's got him a WBO trinket. He's got a few guys to probably knock out for the next year or so before first fragment. What did you make of him? Did you watch him? Are you impressed with Adelaide? How far do you think you can go?
Look, I think what's happening is that, you know, one thing, Frank, it's one of the things that, you know, you never write off Big Frank in your apparel, do you? He always keeps on coming back. He's got a bit of a stranglehold on the heavyweight division in this country, in terms of, like, obviously, you know, having David Adelaide, and yeah, as you said, he's gonna sort of carefully manage him, put him in a position where eventually, you know, give it a couple of years, then maybe he'd be ready for a big shot. But again, he did what he had to do, didn't he? You know, he had to do, and you know, it's one of those things where, for me, I do like the look of him. I must say, like I said, obviously, I didn't have the fortune of being at the York Hall like yourself, but you know, he is a fighter that I'm definitely going to keep an eye on. But I think if Frank, you know, like I said, carefully manage him, I like to see him in maybe a bit more stiffer test. You know what I mean? Because I like him to maybe, you know, like try and set up a British rival. But in terms of being ready for the likes of maybe, you know, like Daniel Dubois and Dillian White, yes, give it 18 months. You know what I mean? Just, you know, careful. There's no rush whatsoever with him. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, he's 25. You look at the age of all the top contenders at heavyweight.
Yeah.
Most of them are around 30. And I mean, the big four are like well into their 30s. So it seems like you don't get to the top till you're 30 nowadays.
No, so you don't. And I think you look at Daniel Dubois as well. He's a young man, but you know, obviously he's been pushed a lot, you know, by his dad and obviously by first his first train, and obviously he's now with McGuigan as well. So because I think in terms of like in terms of him, he's had a lot of experience at quite a young age, and you know, I still think that, you know, Daniel Dubois isn't ready yet for a shot at the big time. He isn't ready for Usyk, but money talks sometimes. You know, I think that if he you know learns his trade a bit more, he'd be like, you know, David Adelaide. You know, he can go a long way, and I think they're probably the right you know, promoter in Frank Warren, because I think you look at Ben Shalom. Ben Shalom, if you don't mind me saying so, is because of it, the pressure he's under with Sky in terms of having to put in big fights. It'll probably rush him along, or will be a situation where he's trying to please everyone, because you know you can. And then obviously with Eddie as well. Eddie is a people pleaser, so he's going to put them in big fights when they're not ready. Eddie's always got a habit of doing that. Whilst Frank, you know, with David, you know, he's going to. I think it's for the best that, you know, just take your time a bit. Take your time a bit. You know, he's not at the top level. He's still, you know, British, which is a good level. Maybe up to European, but world level, no way is he ready for that. No way.
Talking British level, all the talk now is that Wardley, after the debacle we saw with Fraser Clark, I saw an interview with IFL, Wardley saying that Clark, he's going to the back of the queue after messing me around, rightfully so. The talk is David Adelaide, and you know, David. Remember, there was that press conference where he went over to meet Fabio, and hey, look, yeah, I mean, I think that's a good fight, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but the thing with both of those fighters as well is that, you know, both of them I think ain't ready. You know, ready for the ready for, like, you know, like I said, the bigger fights. But you know, it's going to be a learning fight for both of them, especially for Wardley, because obviously I look at Wardley and I still see like a cruiserweight, but what I do see is a cruiserweight who's got heavyweight power but cruiserweight speed. I look at Adlai as well. He's got heavyweight power, but you know he's got a bit of inexperience. That is a good 50-50 fight. It's a fight where if there's a defeat, then it's not the end of the world, because they can still go on from it. You know, go where I think their careers need to be, because I do think that they are genuinely, you know, good fighters, and they take the game seriously. You know, I say it, I've got a lot of respect for him, but you know, they're not Babbage. They're not Alan and Babbage, are they? I mean, Aaron Babbage was. How many times were you watching Aaron Babbage and you're saying, please keep your hands up, keep your head down, your head's too high? And what happened? He got his head knocked off. But these two, they do the right things. They do the right things. Although I do think sometimes Fabio, because of his style, he tends to, you know, like take a punch in order to get his punches off. Yeah. And I think that is where I feel there are still a bit of bad habits that he needs to learn. You know, he's learning a lot from his manager, Dillian White, in terms of like, I'll fight anybody, let's have a slugfest. Boxing's a science, mate. It's not a street fight in a Litton Tree in Holloway Road, you know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we know as fans it's great fun for us, but if you're talking about longevity in this sport and maximising things, you're right. You can't keep and a war. I mean, save those for when it really matters. But
definitely.
You mentioned. Sorry, Karen.
No, what I'm trying to say is that I still think people. I think what's happened, right, is that I think boxers nowadays are in a bit of a rush. I think the situation is that, you know, there's so many promoters to choose from, you know, and TV schedules as well, because you know you've got you got you know, Wasserman, Boxer, you know, Matchroom, you've got Queensberry, and you notice as well with a lot of them, there's no kind of like, how do I say it, promoter code, is there? They're all putting fights to the same day. That you know, since, you know, before you know, Eddie went to the Zone, that was never happened. It just was one of those things where it was an unwritten rule. But now everyone's, you know, like everyone's fighting, you know, for the same part. We've had two shows on, you know, on two different channels this week, 3 different channels this weekend, and then look what we had with the, you know, 2 weeks ago before the bank holiday Monday.
Oh, there was a triple header, weren't there?
Yeah, there was Michael Conlon, and then there was obviously Chris Billen-Smith against Collier, and then obviously there was the big fight between the rematch between Lara and Lee Wood. All brilliant fights. You know, tickets were sold, but in terms of the, you know, TV schedules, you know, everyone's going for that, you know, big fight. All of them would have definitely, you know, got the views in if they had this kind of the landscape to themselves. Because, you know, it was a good weekend for sport, of, you know, through the playoffs and everything, and you know, obviously the Premiership as well, with the last day of the Premiership as well. So it's a good time to get, you know, sports fans in. But again, I don't like that. But at the end of the day, no one knows anything in boxing. Another thing as well is the YouTubers. I don't like YouTubers, but they promote themselves and they can promote their own events and they got money. So it's a prize fight, isn't it?
Indeed. Yeah, competition has got a lot fiercer and a lot more ruthless. Like you said, 3 fights in a night. But hey, that BT on the Friday night, were there any other prospects that impressed you at all?
Not really. There wasn't really much to look at, because I was kind of flicking around, and you know, I was really mainly interested in like kind of the main event. But you know, and I diced myself for that because of the, you know, with you know, with the Arsenal stuff, I was doing all the other sporting commitments as well. it's a shame, but that's what I want to sort of get back into. So, you know, getting back with you, I can start having a look at quite a few youngsters. You've got the benefit of doing that more than me because obviously you've got your press pass now, and you know Queensbury been
Hey,
good with you, innit?
we can ask Sky Boxing Hub to try and get you on board here because,
Hey,
like you said, there's so many.
I don't know what it was before during lockdown. You know, they were kind of restricting the passes, isn't it? Now they're giving it away now.
Well,
You know
yeah,
what
I mean,
but, you know,
given the competition where there's like 3 fights on the night, yeah, if there's one in London, one up north, right, you know, you need more than one reporter. So, what about the Saturday night then? Sonny Edwards, are you impressed?
I
What
love
did you
him.
think of
I
it?
love him. I love that guy.
Glad
You
to
know
hear
why I
it.
love you know why I love Sonny Edwards? It's not the fact. It's for a simple reason. It's that he's one boxer who uses his brain in terms of like how he promotes himself, how he sells himself. You know how he's saying, "Fight me, fight me, fight me." He's one of those fighters. He thinks he's the best. He thinks he's the best out of all everyone in his division. And one thing about him, I've never seen someone with good feet. His feet are beautiful. The way he lures people into a trap, he gets you. You know, Campos. He's saying to Campos, "Come on, come on, come on." I'm gonna let you run up on me, but it's got to be at your own peril. Where you're going to hit me, but you're not going to catch me because you're not going to get me in the body because I'm going to turn myself. You're not going to get me in the head because I'm going to you know, like I said, block your punches. But when you're tired off and your hands go down, then I'm going to come and get you. And it was one of those things that I really loved about that performance was that, you know, it was a case of setting little traps, and you know, he's probably, I think, you know, I've heard people say he's probably our best pound-for-pound fighter, and I'm struggling to disagree with that. I'm really struggling to disagree with it because he's got. I'm looking at it, and I'm trying to look for weaknesses. Obviously, all right. Don't get me wrong. You ain't got the power. You ain't got much power. But one thing about that, like I said, kind of negates your powerful opponent is timing, speed of hand or foot. And that's one thing I liked about the performance. It was an education watching the lads, you know, real education. Personally, I'm surprised he's gone with Eddie because he's been slagging him off for the last 3 or 4 years when he was with Frank, and you know, and obviously he can't help himself. But if he wants to get those those sort of reunification fights, he's got to go with Eddie because I said a lot of these fighters are with him. If he wants to sort of like, you know, go up in weight, you know, he's got Chocolito waiting for him. But obviously, you know, he's got so many of the champions, right? Basically, they're basically trying to price himself out, and he keeps on telling them off that I've already agreed with you verbally. I've spoke to you personally. There's no reason why fights can't be done. So it's over to Eddie. It's over to Eddie to sort of you know, like I said, get these fights down. Get this guy, you know, in these big fights because I don't see any weaknesses in him. But through boxing, and I think what a lot of people tend to mistake is that I'm looking at what he's doing in you know, the British Isles and all these fights, and maybe subconsciously I'm discounting the other champions because they're good champions as well. They got a lot to offer. They're not going to fall into those little traps that Sonny sets. So
that's why it's
they're
so
going to be a
fascinating, though.
situation.
As Chris B saying,
the fascinating fact.
Perform well,
and
but
they hit harder. They hit a bit harder than Sonny as well.
Yeah, they hit harder. Chris B's rightfully pointing out his opponent wasn't all that, but yeah, look, even Sonny Edwards said, "I know that my opponent weren't all that, and you won't get the best of me fighting that level." Prince Patel, big up Prince. We had him on iBoxing Hub last night with the other 2 boys on their Sunday show. Yeah, listen, Prince Patel, he's great fun for box office, but the truth is he hasn't proven himself ready for
at all
world level. Listen, I love these fighters who will publicity. As you said, Kenny, Prince is doing that, but you also got to do it in the ring. I mean,
you have to, yeah, and that's the
can't
thing about
just
Sonny.
talk your-
Sonny can back
Exactly.
it. Sonny can back it. He can back it. But one thing I worry about Sonny Edwards is that because he's so awkward and so quick in his feet. I don't want him to be Harold Graham's. Look at Harold Graham. He was all no one wanted to fight him. All these middleweights at the time, like Tony Simpsons, obviously later down the track, Marshall Benz, Chris Eubank, senior. All of those guys made more money than Errol Graham. Errol Graham was brilliant at British level. He had a very good unbeaten record before he fought Sambo Kalambe. But the reason why I didn't want to fight him because they didn't believe in themselves. They didn't have the game plan to fight, to actually fight that southpaw style. And I don't want to say anything about Sonny when the other champions won't fight him because they're scared of the fact that they won't be able to deal with him. Yeah, they hit harder, but in terms of like genuine skills and in terms of like being able to sort of change the pace of a fight, they're going to look at Sonny and think, nah, I don't fancy this. I don't fancy this. You know what I mean? And I think that's my biggest worry in boxing. People don't want to lose their titles.
Yeah, right.
Because it's a long way back.
The word on Twitter is Bam Rodriguez is saying he will take it next. But there's been fighters who've said that before. But let's hope. I mean, do you fancy Sonny to beat Bam and Martinez?
You know what? You just don't know. You don't know because simple reason they're great. They've got different styles. They've got the same sort of boxing skills, but with a bit more power. But what will happen is it's 50-50 fights. They're 50-50 fights. In terms of on the eye, Sonny's more pleasing the eye for me than those two. I feel they've probably got a little bit more explosiveness than Sonny. But then again, the thing about fighters like Sonny Edwards, you feel with their knowledge of the game that they can actually, like I said, go to that next level where if they are in a war, they'll be able to, readjust to the fight they're fighting. And I think Sonny's got that ability. Sometimes you can't pigeonhole. The next fight we're going to review. One of the mistakes a lot of boxing people do is two of the main mistakes. Everyone judges a fighter in their last fight when everyone knows that if you put a world champion in front of you and you've got a chance of changing your life, and you listen to your trainer, your performance goes up by another 50%. Always happens in boxing, but people, lazy pundits, think, oh yeah, he was poor in his last couple of fights. Nah, write him off. Oh, he can't. He won't be able to deal with this guy's power and speed of hand and foot. Well, ain't gonna here. They do. I think Sonny's adjustable, just like I think the other people are adjustable as well. That's why it's Rodriguez and Martinez. They're fascinating battles. You can't put your house on any on Sonny against those two or them against Sonny. This is high level, world class boxing.
Yeah, let's just so Eddie, you can work your magic and get us those fights. Bukayo's asking us, is Sonny the best boxer pound in England right now from Fury?
Yes.
I think he's considerably ahead of Fury right now.
Yeah. He gets out and fights and doesn't mess around the British public. You know what I mean? In terms of skills, yes.
We'll come to like the other events of the weekend. I think even more so now. I think he is. I don't think he's proven it, not through any fault of his. But get those the Bam and Martinez fights, and yeah, I think that we'll see him certainly prove it. On that show at Wembley, did you watch the design show?
I saw like 70 highlights. It was playing on the background, but you know what I mean. But it was really like the Sunny fight. I was really like,
You were really interested.
you know, like to really, you were tickling my fancy.
So Shanika Johnson, her body paint outfit didn't.
Anyway, I saw that one. Yeah, that was I saw that was something else. Yeah, that was playing in the background whilst I was doing. Because you know what's happened. I've had you know what I was doing, don't you? I had the Champions League final on the football.
Ah,
Plus I had the boxing on one of the computers.
I get you.
Yeah, I mean,
That's hardcore, of course. Yeah, I was the other
yeah.
way round. Obviously, I was there at Wembley, but my colleague sitting next to me, he had the Champions League on his tablet playing.
No. I had a Champions League final on the main TV, and I had a boxer. Yes, I did. I was basically saying, please, don't go extra time. I've got to watch me. I've got to watch the boy from Sutton fight, man. You know what I mean?
It's Croydon, isn't it? Get it right.
Yeah. He's born in Sutton, but he's a Croydon boy, isn't he? Very. As I said before, he's a very like. He's got like he reminds me a bit of George Groves, how he expressed himself in terms of like he's a quick thinker in terms of his mind. I was very impressed with his first kind of punditry and his co-commentary. I thought he was brilliant.
He's brilliant. He's a great speaker.
Brilliant.
I had the pleasure of interviewing him.
He's I don't know. I haven't met him in person, but I do think if I do get to meet him, I'll be stunned at first by how small he is.
Yeah.
I don't know many men. I don't know many men who are about 5'3", and I'm 5'3". I don't know many men who are 5'3".
Yeah, he does almost look childlike. What was there any fights on the undercard that you I thought Chev Clark, his English or British title, cruiser title, eliminated against David Jameson. Chev Clark looks good in that cruiserweight mix domestically. I'm looking forward to the possibility of Clark against Chamberlain because, as I put it on Twitter, Chev Clark's based in Vauxhall, Isaac Chamberlain's based in Brixton. It's the Lambeth Council derby.
Definitely. You know the thing about it is that I think Chamberlain held his own against Chris Smith in his last outing, and I still think that there's mileage for him because you feel like Chamberlain is that, you know, he had his fight with Lawrence Okolie, but was it about 4 or 5 years ago? And then he went quiet.
Yeah, he did go quiet for a while.
He went quiet because I know there was an issue with a family member who he accused of, like I said, financial skullduggery of, I think it was with the Okolie purse, wasn't it? There was where a trusted family member shortchanged him, and obviously that, and then there was fights where there wasn't this kind of where he's had to build himself up. He wasn't getting the big nights. Obviously, that happens if you lose. And then he had his big chances. Obviously, he's had his injury as well. So obviously, the retina injury. So again, that's a big fight for Chef. But this is a good marker for Chamberlain because I still think, there are fights out for him. If he wins it well, then he can move up because who knows? It could be it could be a situation where he could fight Okolie because obviously Okolie's got reactivated his rematch clause with Crispin and Smith. But right now, I look at Lawrence Okolie and I think he's a mess. He's an absolute mess. Not in terms of like, as a human being, but as a boxer. His tactics, everything. I look at it's wrong. His feet are wrong. His jab, it's got no timing whatsoever. I don't know what the hell he's been doing. I mean, that fight with like the New Zealand David Light was personally, I think he was rushing. He shouldn't have rushed into that Chris Billion Smith fight. He's rushing into it. His ego got the better of him. He looked at a situation where there was problems with Eddie Hearn, and he said, "Right, I'm going to rush into it. I'm going to prove I'm still the best." Wrong. He was not ready for that fight. He was not ready for that fight. He just rushed into it and he got what he deserved. He fought a live fighter who was there to tag him. And let's face it, that was a fight. The fight he really wanted was react for, not that fight.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's going to go out the window. But if Chamberlain, wins, and gets himself out, that'd be a good fight. Because I'm telling you now, I don't think Lawrence Okolie should go anywhere near Chris Billam-Smith until he has another one or two fights. So if Chamberlain gets, if you've matched up, Chev with Chamberlain, I don't see any reason why if Chamberlain gets on, why that they can't go again. Because I'll tell you one thing, Lawrence Okolie is at Learning Club. He's gone with Sugar Hill, but he's nowhere near what Sugar Hill wants. So he's definitely taking. He's definitely taking.
Yeah, you could say he's in, like you said, he's career-wise, he's in a bit of a mess. To go from being a world champion to now, as you said, being talked about just for domestic fight. Tony Ellis, big up to you. He made an interesting point. Vidal Riley is in the mix too. He is, but I don't think the same mix. The way I interpret it is that Billam-Smith, Okolie, and Riakporhe are the guys who in the next 6 months to a year.
Oh, definitely with me.
World
definitely with that. But then, of course, obviously you've got. I think you've got. There's other fighters who like I said, are in the mix. But for me, I still think those three are up there, and is the other.
Yeah, those three I think are at the top. But then I think there's a crop that make for a really good domestic scene. That's Isaac, Lawal, the winner of that. You got Jordan Thompson. You got Ellis Zorro, and now Chev Clark. Riley, I don't think he's quite there yet because he's still still fighting eight rounders. So yeah,
no, it's too early for him.
Big up sport
for me. I think it's too early for him. For me personally,
in the mix too soon. Well, Alex, if it's you, welcome. What mix? The domestic mix? I don't think so because he's 32. An Olympian. We know this modern phenomenon of guys staying in amateurs for so long that they turn pro at 30 and then you almost got a rush. I think that's where Chev Clark is. But personally, I thought the way he looked on Saturday night, I think he's ready for the domestic rivals. Like I said, those 4 or 5, Chamberlain, Thompson, Zorro, Lawal, Chev Clark, you could have a great little tournament right there.
Look, you think about it is that I can understand like the situation. Obviously, you're talking about all these fighters who fight in the Olympics because the reason why a lot of these fighters stay amateur because simple reason is that they get a lot of funding from the lottery. Like the national lottery, and then obviously from like I said, the Olympic boxing board as well. So they get guaranteed funding, they've got a place to stay, and they get good training facilities that they don't have to pay for. So let's face it, it does pay for them to sort of like stay in the amateurs for as long as they can. Another thing as well, you're learning your trade as well. You learn your trade. You've got genuine coaches, good, very, very good coaches. Then when you go professional, when you've learnt your trade, just do it. Unless you're in a situation where you've got your stars really high, where, and you have to go professional. I don't see a rush, but I do see it from, maybe when you're in like mid-20s, maybe so. But it depends on the fighter. Look at Joe Joyce, isn't it? Look at Joe Joyce, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, the guy that just beat him, Zhang, he's another one. So he just pro till he was like well over 30, and he's now 40.
He's 40, turned 40, isn't it? So and I think the thing with boxing, you've got to remember as well is that sports science is now prevalent in boxing. Also, another thing as well is that they've got their own sort of dietitians, they've got their own personal trainers as well as their actual, actual boxing trainers itself. So they're a lot fitter. They know they're actually athletes now, so they can go on for a long, long time. Tyson Fury, is an athlete as well as a boxer. Deontay Wilder, they're all athletes now. So, it's a situation where they know in their minds. Whilst before, there wasn't so much of this sort of like athleticism, sports science, like personal training, like I said, programs they were. It was kind of, people just did their own sort of, how do I say it, the raw egg kind of training, Rocky training. You know what I mean? Now they're all athletes. They're all athletes. They're in the camp. There's everyone is there in a camp. It's just like any kind of professional sport now. That it's elite. It's elite sport. So I can understand why they are able, if they live the right life, to go on well into their late 30s and even into their 40s. I don't see any reason why that can't happen. That if with the programs are available, as long as it's clean, obviously.
Well, the cynic in me would say, actually, a lot of they might have the best pharmacists as well as nutritionists. We won't go into that today. I mean, it's good.
Better not. If you start talking about it, you won't be getting any of your ringside passes. If you carry on like that.
Exactly. I mean, that's a good segue into when you're talking about people living the life, as the headline of the show says, Adrian Broner. Is he back? Oh, good old Broner.
I don't know.
Signed with Don King, and he got a win. He hasn't been taken seriously for a long time as a fighter, but just for name value, is he back in the mix?
It's a shame, isn't it? Because the simple reason is that he's had to virtually promote himself, and he obviously before he fought Madonna, we thought he was going to go all the way. He's fought Madonna. He's lost a few. He's lost at probably the highest level. But as I said before, I still think he's got a lot to offer. Is he? But if you're saying, is he going to be back in sort of the mix in terms of world champions? No, I don't see it. I think
you don't think because of his name value. You don't think?
Don't get me wrong. He'll get fights. He'll get the opponent. He'll still get the, like I said, he'll still sell tickets. But in terms of like if you look at the the weight division he's in, and there's a lot of good fighters out there. A lot of good fighters out there who I just think, man, 4 or 5 years ago he would have been up with them, but now boxing's got. I don't see it. I don't see it. Don't get me wrong. He's never going to. We saw that he's a comfortable win in Land's position against Hutchinson, but when I look, I don't want to sound pessimistic, but for him, yeah, I am pessimistic.
All right, tell me then this: of the 4 champions now, how would a fight go for him? This is presuming it's a fully fit, motivated Broner who comes in properly in shape. He hasn't been out partying and etc. Fully focused, fully fit Broner. Give it to me. How does he do? Prograis, Lopez, who are the other two? Matias and Rolly Romero. Although Romero's got a fight O'Hara. Well, all of them have probably got fights lined up. But in this fantasy world, how does he do against each of them?
No chance against Prograis. Prograis was smashed into pieces.
Can't see it. Stop him brutally? Yeah.
It'll be brutal.
Early? Late?
No, it won't be. It'll be down into the last stretch, 8-9 rounds, take him out.
So you think it will get a bit of a sustained beating on the way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Prograis is a beast of a man. He's So I don't. Again, I can't see it with Prograis. You're talking about Lopez as well.
We'll be discussing him in more depth shortly, but
we're going to see. No, I don't see it. Lopez, no way. The Lopez I saw, but we're going to discuss, no such chance. Even the Lopez, who believed his hype and who's coming out of all sorts of blame game. It would be a close fight, but I still think Lopez will have it. So that's a no. And then who is it? You had
Gabriel Matias. Gabriel
No.
Matias has got one of them. He's considered a real dark horse.
I'm not. He's a dark horse, but even so, I still think he might have a little bit too much for like I said, Adrian Broner. And then the fourth one. You had
Romero. Rolly Romero got gifted that that belt.
Well, that could be a route back into the big time, Romero. But again, he has to be fully focused. He's got to have the confidence as well. That out of the four, Rory Romero, yes. Lopez, no. Progress, absolutely no way. Just stop it. Stop that talk. Stop it. No way, mate.
It's a strange one. He's signed with Don King, so I don't know what the line of thinking there is.
You know what? I tend to forget about Don King. I still got like I said, how do I say it, nightmares about the Dan Dubois Ryan fight. I seriously thought that was held in one of you remember we were at school and you saw like the assembly hall when we were in school where it was a kind of when we used to do gym, you used to do PE. Yeah. And sometimes, right, you sometimes you used to do it in your bare feet, and you know when someone doesn't wash afterwards, you can still smell the cheesy feet from the kids doing like the PE in the gym assembly hall. That's exactly what I remember Don King for. I look at this Hall of Fame and I'm thinking, but you have to start somewhere. I can imagine a lot of the, like the promoters and TV stations not wanting to know Adrian Broner. So if Don King comes calling, you still want to fight. If he's the best, you got best of the promoters who are interested. You take it. You know what I mean? But seriously,
how he's fallen. Got Diego C. Palace. I presume that's Crystal Palace evening.
I know Diego very, very well. Diego C. Palace is Crystal. We know each other very, very well. He was very kind to give me a lift after last year when we played Crystal Palace. I think it's 3-0. He gave me a lift all the way from Sells Park all the way to North London, and that was a night game. It was a night game, so the game finished about just after 10. I was doing my my fan cam with Lee Gunner, and that finished about 11 o'clock. And he went, "Don't worry, I'll drive you home." And I thought, you don't have to. No, boom. Took me all the way home from Selhurst Park, all the way up to North London. I owe this guy my life. Crystal Palace.
Diego Crystal Palace. Wow.
Yeah, I know. I met him well, and he's a massive fan of Pro Bees. He's a massive fan of Chig because a good friend of ours as well, Chig. Who did the football podcast with, and he had a boxing show as well. He passed away a month after Pro Bees passed away. It was like an annus horribilis 2021, especially that period, because you had Claude, you had obviously me mum, you had Pro Bees, you had Chig as well. It was one of those crazy times.
Oh, that's horrible. Diego, you're most welcome here. Bring all your football fans who want to hear us talk about boxing, and tell everyone about the show. All right, Kenny, we got to go on to probably the biggest fight of the weekend. We've alluded to it, but Josh Taylor is toppled by Teofimo Lopez.
How many people had Josh Taylor winning that? Stop. It was a case of him winning on points, him stopping him in the later rounds.
Mm-hmm.
It was people like Teddy Atlas saying that because he's a company man for top rank, and obviously for the WBO as well, that if he went to points, Teofimo won't be allowed to win. You had people like you had people saying that Teofimo had mentality issues. Mentality issues. Every pundit was talking about his mentality. They were talking about his last 2 fights at 140. They talked about his last fight, at 135 of George Kambosos Jr. He was getting written off left, right, and centre. I got all your names, all written on a pad there, all written on a pad, talking about mentality issues. But one man, Bill Haney, said if Teofimo fought like he did in the amateurs, he'll win this fight. He'll add him winning. Everyone, Bradley all was saying it's going to be Josh Taylor. Even Teddy Atlas he actually went for Teofimo, but he thought that Teofimo wouldn't be allowed to win because of the things he's been saying about the ways his dad's been acting, he's the mentality issues, the situation with his wife and the accusations there and divorce, and obviously again what he said about in terms of his row with the PBC. Obviously he says that they thought that black fighters are getting favoured, like they can have their black fighters. So there was a lot of people like I said talking about Teofimo in a sort of like less than glowing manner. But one thing they seem to forget is that Josh Taylor, he was we all know factually, even though factually he got the split decision. We all saw that fight, and we've all watched it back, and no one in boxing is convinced that he beat Catterall that day. Not only is that, he's had injuries, he's had a 15-month layoff. One thing about Josh Taylor as well is that Catterall found out a weakness about him. He exposed the weaknesses that when Josh Taylor, because of his height, his head's too high. And when he comes in with his head comes in, he doesn't. When he comes in and tries to take people out with his speed of hand or foot, and his size, he thinks that people ain't gonna work that out. So there were that kind of Arsenal as well going against Teofimo. Josh Taylor himself believed that Teofimo Lopez would be the Teofimo Lopez of his last 2 fights, but most importantly, the emotional Teofimo Lopez against George Kambosos Jr. He was wrong.
I'll tell you what, does that? I mean, as you said, in this day and age, people write fighters off, but Teo's all of 25, and I think it's a measure of actually how mentally strong he is. What with the personal issues, apparently his wife left him, suing him for all his money and what have you.
Yeah.
All of that, he can then go in there with a top level champion and turn it on.
I was just checking that one of the pundits was Michaela Meyer.
Oh yeah,
she was the one who was writing a TFO, and she was the one who mentioned the mentality issues. Because I remember, he just came back to me. Michaela Meyer, who was saying the same sort of thing. They all had Josh Reed, but as you said about Teofimo, it's one of those things where I had that fight because part of me thought I wasn't convinced. Even though I thought, Josh Taylor should do it because his pedigree. In the back of my mind, I saw weaknesses in his game that Catterall exposed, and I thought, and I knew, and I thought that he was gonna make the same mistakes as he made before. It doesn't matter whether he changed trainer, but he got himself into really bad habits. You look at the situation. If you look at the Catterall fight, his timing was all wrong, and then Catterall was able to, even though he's not as quick as Josh Taylor, his timing got to Josh Taylor. So I thought, hang on here. This isn't the fight I saw against Ramirez. This is someone he knows. And then Teofimo fight. But let's analyse it.
Diego saying he had it 116, 112. I just wonder, you look at all the pundits, well, amateur pundits like us, they're now saying things like Josh Taylor, he was overrated all along.
Don't listen to them. You know what it is, Ra? People say that are not proper boxing fans. A proper boxing fan will not go and rubbish someone's achievements after one fight. They did that when he Joshua after he lost to Ruiz Jr. They did it to Deontay Wilder after he lost to Tyson Fury. Yet they still called Tyson Fury the best thing since sliced bread, the best heavyweight of all time. And if Tyson Fury loses, they're going to do it to Tyson Fury. What happens if Usyk loses? They're going to do it to Usyk. The people who are real boxing fans don't write a fighter after one or two defeats, because so all their other achievements were they rubbish then?
I think that's exactly that. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think what people might have a point is if you're saying he's not as good as he was 3 or 4 years ago, but that's natural. That's the aging process, isn't it?
No, just say that he's a really, really good fighter. He's got good feet, he's got good hands. But what's happened is that if you look at the first three, when he lost the fight, there was nothing wrong with the first 3 rounds. They could have gone either way. But from round 4 onwards, that's when he lost the fight. And what has happened is that him and Teofimo, he was doing the right things. He was coming forward. Trying to get him to the body, but Teofimo was, jabbing, head shots with the right hand. He wasn't right hand greedy, but he in the last kind of like half of the fight, that's when Teofimo was coming into it. The last 30 seconds, Teofimo then came into action and became more explosive. But from round 4 onwards, Teofimo opened up on him. Josh Taylor was too high. If you notice the right hand where his head went back, and then every time he came forward, he'll throw one punch, but Teofimo will throw the combinations. So he'll throw the sort of like left hand. So he'll come up and he'll throw the left hand, but in one punch, Teofimo will either feint, turn him around, and then he'll hit him with an uppercut. Then he'll do a jab. Then he'll hit him with a left hook. But it was punching him freeze. And if you noticed, after the 5th round, Jim McInally was saying to him, Josh Taylor, you're too hesitant. What you shouldn't be hesitant. You need to go in there, and when you pin him, let your hands go. But Josh isn't stupid. He knew that Teofimo set the trap for him. So when when he's coming in with the southpaw stance, the counter to a southpaw stance is always the right hand. But some fighters do try to throw the straight right. But what Teofimo did is that every time Josh threw the punch, what he was doing is that he could see the left hand coming, and he was doing little feints. And he's even saying and coming to even when he was on the ropes, he was doing little feints, turning him around. But what was happening is that he allowed it to throw the left hand. And when he threw the left hand, his head was up. He used to sneak him a right uppercut. And that was one of the reasons why Josh Taylor was hesitant. That's where mentally he got him. And I think if you look into the rest of the fight, it was a case of after round 4, he was hesitant in terms of his work. He says, do I come in and try and do a flurry of punches? He couldn't do it because he knew one mistake, he was going to get turned or he's going to get met with a right uppercut. And then when the right uppercut comes, there was a period in the 9th round, which another big round for Teofimo, where Josh Taylor comes in on the attack, uppercut, and then Ed goes back, and then he kicks him with a left hook, takes him by surprise with a left hook, and the head goes back. And then round 10 was an absolute mess for him. He was out his feet. I think ran nine was a mess for him. Ran 10, Teofimo took a round off because he knew he was winning the fight. Ran 11, he started off really well, Josh Taylor, but again, Teofimo met him with the right uppercut, and he nearly took him out in the 11th round. Then in the 12th round, it was a case of where Josh Taylor, I don't think he had the belief that he was going to, even though Jim McAnally built him up and had to tell him, was saying, yeah, this is, trying to tell him to go and take the fight away from him. He knew by that time he had lost that fight. And there was a time where, if you look at the sort of the last 30 seconds of the 12th round, he was hanging on. It was a case of not Josh Taylor trying to close the gap. It was a case of Teofimo, knocking him out. Had the bell gone, if there was another 10 seconds left in that fight, I think he would have gone. He would have knocked him out. I think the bell saved him in the 11th and 12th, and definitely in the 4th round and the 9th. It was a wide lead. So when I heard the scorecards and two of the judges gave it 115, 113, you having a laugh? Can you imagine it? If Josh Taylor won that 12th round, that'd have been a draw. It would have been a majority draw. And he got what? Let's face it, he got battered. He got beaten to the pulp. And the reason why he got beaten to the pulp is because simple reasons that Teofimo realised that at world championship level, you can't be right hand greedy. You got to put your own personal problems to one side. Don't let your opponents get to you, and box. It's not a street fight. He let Kambosos get into his brain. All that nonsense with the dads, George Kambosos Senior, Teofimo, and you know how George Kambosos gets to your face. He has this sort of Grecian look. Like he's going to kill you. Yeah. And you've got someone from New York who says, "What, you're going to kill me?" He fell into that trap. Don't know how he did fall in that trap. He boxed. And that's what happens when you go back to your boxing and I think the thing that tapped Teofimo as well is that he would have nowhere to go. I think it was a situation where his enemies, and he's made a few, would have slammed the door in his face. Now he's got something they want. Yeah. And I think that you know what I mean? And I think that was the equaliser. Josh Taylor will come back from this. He's a good fighter. But the thing with Josh Taylor right now, he's got to go to 147. He's done at 140. 147 is his next weight for me.
I was going to ask you where both fighters go now. If we just stay on Teofimo, the champ. Of course, he said he's retired now. Is he playing
BS.
Fury?
He's only
games? Is he trying to pressure Aaron to offer him something?
No, not at all. Not at all. He probably means it when he says it. There's a lot of things going on for him. He's upset with the fact that his wife's got to take him for half of his earnings. So working your nuts off and then having to lose half your money. That is what will make you want to retire mentally. Then you've got a situation where there's still situations where he's still angry and upset with Top Rank, and all the other promoters. He feels that he's not appreciated. He feels that Devin Haney and other fighters at PBC are getting the like I said, the kudos and the fights and TV schedules. But Teofimo, when you're champion and you win fights, that's what happens. I hate to break it to you, mate, but TV viewers, boxing fans want to see winners. They want to see world championship fights. And until you fought Josh Taylor, you weren't in a world championship fight. You're an ex-world champion. Let's be blunt. Devin Haney did to Lomachenko only a few weeks ago what you did to him 2 years ago. So you can't live off the Lomachenko fight. You know what I mean? And he's got to box clever. Boxing's politics. It's a dirty sport, mate. Everyone wants that. No one's going to help each other. You have to have something that someone needs. And now he has got something that he needs. you know, there's a possible fight with Devin Haney if he wants it,
Yeah.
or you know, he
What,
could fight Pro Grace.
who do you think he should fight next? If you were his manager.
If I was his manager, I'll fight Devin Haney because for simple reason is that the money.
Mhm.
I'll fight for his manager. I fight for his career, and you know, I think that will get good numbers for him. But another thing as well, he's fighting. He is at that top level now by beating Josh Taylor, and I think that the Devin Haney fight would be. I think that'd be a good fight for him. Whether he wins and whether he's able to produce that performance, because I think Devin Haney's a more of a hasn't got the kind of battle scars that Josh Taylor has. You know, he's always performs at a high level. Every time you see him write him off, he like I said, he produces really, really good performances. You know, his fight with Lomachenko is subjective. But if you watched it if you watched it first, you'll think Lomachenko won. But if you watch it again the second and third time, you'll realise why Devin Haney was given that decision.
Yeah.
Because
I'll tell you what, that would be intriguing. You know why? Remember a few years ago they were talking about the so-called four kings and how they're not fighting each other. Well, it seems like a lot of these fights there are going to happen at 140 now because Ryan Garcia, he's in line maybe to fight Roy Romero.
Yeah.
Unless O'Hara gets his rightful shot first, we don't know about that. But yeah, Ryan's fighting at 140 now. So them youngsters, the big fights are there now.
Well, it's definitely there, and I think you know, like this is a good time, it's good time for Lopez to be in the mix. There's good fights for him, but you know, all that talk of retirement, you know, don't be stupid. You've got something that someone wants, you know, which is one of the belts, and there's some big fights out here. You've proved that you're a top level fighter. You know, a performance like that. There's no you can't take anything away from Teofimo Lopez. He put in a pitch perfect. His feet were great. His hand speeds, which was always been there, was brilliant. His power as well to keep Josh Taylor on the back foot was there, and you know, tactics were brilliant. You know, even his dad calmed himself down. I don't know. You know. I'll tell you one thing. He needs to send a cat. He needs to send some drinks over to the Haney household because, again, it was only Bill Haney and Teddy Atlas that had Teofimo winning that. I knew I know Teofimo's a good fighter because unlike a lot of boxing fans, like obviously we're off the same page. Your last performance is irrelevant. Just like in any sport, your last performance in football is irrelevant. Your last performance in rugby league is irrelevant. Your last performance in cricket is irrelevant. It's all about your preparation of the day and how much you want it. Trust me. Yeah. There's people to this day that think Deontay Wilder's finished because he couldn't beat Tyson Fury. But in the same breath, they say Tyson Fury's the best heavyweight of they've ever seen. Yeah. And the reason why he's the best heavyweight they've ever seen is because he beat Deontay Wilder, who's got no fundamentals. And has got no fundamentals yet. He still manages to have one of the best knockout ratios I've ever seen. Even as good as Mike Tyson in the 80s, yet he can't box. And that all Anthony Joshua has to do is Deontay Wilder isn't good at fighters who are coming forward. Yet if you look at what happened when Artur Spilska try to walk him down. Look what happened there. He came. Alfred Spilska was with his southpaw stance, was coming, whacking, came at him, let his hands go. Deontay Wilder, who's got good feet and is quick, went on one side, bang, and that's what I say. You just don't know. If you think that Deontay Wilder isn't going to learn from the Tyson Fury fight, where Tyson Fury walks him down. And what's going to happen is that Tyson Fury is able to do that. But there's loads of fighters who've tried to walk Deontay Wilder down. And if they're not in hands go, and they're not as quick as Deontay Wilder. They get put out. We've seen it. We saw what happened. We've seen it happen, haven't we?
Yeah.
Wilder fights where
Absolutely.
he's trying to be walked down. Boom, boom.
Indeed.
He's capable of doing that. That's why I never write fighters off. I always say, if you fight for a world title, then that alleviates the performance. Let's not forget, 27 years ago, Evander Holyfield was going to get. Evander Holyfield had a heart scare. He had the operation around his heart. He fights Mike Tyson. Everyone's giving him medical advice. Don't do it. Don't do it. World heavyweight chance for him to be a world heavyweight champion. I think it was it WBC? Yeah, the WBC belt.
Yeah.
So WBA. I think he had the WBC and the WBA. Because remember, Bruno had the WBC, and Mike Tyson beat Dr. WBC, and the WBA. I think Mike Tyson got the WBC. So it was two belts. I think WBC and WBA. Yeah, one of them many. But I think Evander Holyfield shouldn't have been in the ring with Mike Tyson. What did Evander Holyfield do? After a year before that, he got battered by Riddick Bowe. He raised his game. He looked at areas where he can outwork Mike Tyson, and he put on a perfect game plan. Don't write anyone off in boxing. That's why I say you write off Teofimo, and you think Josh Taylor has to do is to turn up. But let's not forget, Josh Taylor has his own problems. Out of the ring for 15 months. He had an injury before that. Most of the British public have turned against him because we feel that he shouldn't. Jack Carroll should be the undisputed champion and not him. We're upset with him because he vacated his titles as well in order to secure his fight. So we're not happy with him. So he's got despite the fact that we feel that he's going to win. He's got those issues as well, and he's changed trainers as well. He left Ben Davison to go to McAnally, so he's not got the perfect mindset either. So never ever write. And the same thing is when Josh Taylor fights again, everyone's going to write him off because of this performance. Because let's face it, he got soundly beaten by Teofimo. But a desperate fighter is a dangerous fighter.
Talking of before we write off, I mean, you mentioned it there. You think Josh Taylor should move up to 147? Where do you see him going? Do you think he'll do that? Do you think he'll try and hang around at 140? He's looked flat now.
Well, he's made a token gesture, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He said he's made a token gesture of saying that he wants a rematch, and that's what we all want to do. If someone's beating you, you believe that you're better than that, you want to fight them again. But I think by all means activate the rematch clause. But I do think that I think his future is at 147. I really do think.
Do you think he'll struggle with the size of those guys?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think his power. I think his power is going to, and his speed of foot is transferable to a bigger weight anyway. Remember, he's 5'10" anyway, so that weight should be a struggle for him. The same thing. Where we all had our doubts about Teofimo that we all saw him as a 135 fighter, but when he's gone up to 140, I do think if you're a world class fighter, then you can take your power up to a higher weight. And you can take your skills up to the high weight as well. You know what I mean? And I do think it's transferable. Let's not forget, it's nothing new, is it? Come on, the only natural middleweight out of the four kings was Marvin Hagler.
Yeah, good point.
Marvin Hagler. Sugar Ray Leonard was a welterweight. Tommy Hearns was a massive welterweight, and Duran was, his first fight in the late 60s was at lightweight. Yeah. Tommy Hearns, they all fought each other. Sugar Ray Leonard fought Sugar Ray Leonard went all the way up to light heavyweight.
Yeah.
Indeed. Tommy Hearns, went up to middleweight, super middleweight, and overweight. So, and let's not talk about Canelo as well.
Exactly.
Canelo.
He's actually shorter than them.
I
Bukayo
know.
makes a good point. He wants to fight Crawford. I think that'd be intriguing because they're both two guys that were undisputed at 140. Yeah, Crawford, if he defeats Spence, that'd be very intriguing.
It would be a very intriguing fight, but I think that you can never say never in boxing. But when I look at Crawford, a lot of people have got Errol Spence winning there. I respect their opinion. I don't see it. I see a fighter who equally good as the orthodox and as a southpaw. I see a fighter that maintains his power from round one to the championship rounds, because what he does is that he likes to, and that's a lot of, he isn't a greedy fighter. If the opportunity is there to knock someone out, he'll take it. But if he's not there, he'll box and build up a points lead.
Yeah.
Look what happened with Sean Porter. The only reason why he was able to, like I said, take him out was when the opportunity presents himself. He's not greedy. So that'd be a good test for Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor will definitely raise his game.
Yeah, and as you said,
one of the things that Josh Taylor is going to have to do.
Just like Teofimo redeemed himself, who knows? Another upset like that, it could happen.
Anything upset. But, but from what I've seen with one thing that Josh Taylor won't have in his favour is that Terence Crawford hasn't been bitten by the complacency bug. He's ready for every fight. There's no complacency with him. He's ready. He's professional. There's none of this. None of this. Oh, I've got to turn up and win. He earns the right. That's why I think he's the best. That's why I think he's superior to Spence. Don't get me wrong. Spencer's a brilliant fighter, but Spencer's got had things out of the ring. The car crashes, although he's come back for it really well. And obviously, there's the problems of the eyes as well.
Yeah.
Just say injuries as well. Whilst you look at Bob Crawford, the only thing that's gone against Bob Crawford is poor promotion.
Indeed. Absolutely. Kenny, on that note, I'm going to wrap up our first night back together. That sounds a bit suggestive, but our viewers know what I mean.
Listen, people. We're grown men here, mate. It's not like one of those people. We're not children. If you want CBBS, go and watch some of the Arsenal fan channels, especially the main one. That's CBBS, where you got little CBBS or CBBC. This is like BBC One, BBC One, like the main channel.
Kenny, what are you doing? What are you doing over the weekend? Watching any sports? Any boxing?
What this week? Well, I know there's some international matches. Football's still not over. There's England and also massive games for England against Malta, Montenegro, I think. So they're massive. Not, and then obviously it's Father's Day this Sunday as well. So that's obviously I've been penciled in to make sure I don't concentrate on sport. But you're probably not a cricket fan, but I am. Not. The Ashes is commencing this Friday at Edgbaston. I haven't got a ticket, but I'm sure I'll be glued to the TV somewhere to watch some of the cricket. So let's not forget, this is what's going to be happening this weekend. And obviously, I'm going to look out for any big boxing shows that are available. But I believe the next there is a show this Friday. Involving it's a boxer show. I heard that Azim's pulled out. He's pulled out of injury, isn't he, Azim?
Azim's injured, but the show's going ahead. So
yeah, and guess who's headlining it? I believe Fraser Clark's headlining it.
Yeah, Marius Vac.
It's Marius Vac. Marius Vac. It'd be a good test for Fraser Clark, because Marius Vac has been with some good opponents. But then again, when I say he's been with good opponents, he hasn't beaten them. He's been beaten by them.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll be going to the press conference on Wednesday. So fans, if you want to see some content, I might be speaking to some of the fighters on that show. I'll be at Brentwood, Essex for top tier small show. There's Southern area and an English title fight on there. So keep your eyes out for that. Kenny, where can people follow you on social media?
Instagram at KennyKen1972. Twitter, I don't hardly ever go on it because Arsenal Twitter is full of, let's just say, there's cancel culture. Let's just say, because I've been critical of the club and critical of the manager, I believe I've been cancelled by the Arsenal fan base. Have expelled me, and because they don't like me and my sidekicks, Lee Gunner and Jez. So even though a lot of people follow me, and I've still got loads of followers, you could tell if you've been muted or if you've been muted because the rare time I put something out, you don't get any kind of interaction. So you've been muted somehow or secretly unfollowed. So in Instagram, there is more kind of interaction in terms of, like, I do loads of headlines of the football. I do a lot of boxing. I'm a Tyson Fury fan. I didn't like fan, Anthony Joshua fan, but Tyson Fury is really upsetting me at the moment. Either someone's lying, isn't it? If he's lying, or the price line. The Arab. I think Tyson Fury is even pricing the Arabs out. And that's difficult. He's found a way for a Saudi Arabian boxing promoter to say your price is too high. We can't afford your prices. Only he's be able to do that. Money's not an object in the Middle East, but Tyson Fury's found a way.
He's remarkable. Kenny, we're going to have a deep dive on that one day. But for now, it's still a school night. So I think we've got to let our adoring fans go. Kenny, exactly. Like I said, absolute pleasure after a year having you back. And sorry?
I've enjoyed myself, mate.
Well, that's what we're all about, having some fun here. Anyone that doesn't like Kenny's most probably pork chop. Agree with you.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. Yeah, there's a lot of pork chops on Arsenal Twitter, so that's one of the reasons why I don't go on there as well. There's loads of pork chops, but the good thing about it, right? It's good we talk again, but I'm to change the subject slightly. I'm fascinated in how Postecoglou's going to do at Tottenham. I'm fascinated.
Yeah. Don't like Spurs being used as a testing ground for an Aussie coach, but I guess that's what we're reduced to. So.
They say he's got a good pedigree. They say that everywhere he's gone, he's won trophies.
Oh. Glenn Hoddle had a great pedigree.
That's true. And he managed England as well.
Indeed. All right, ladies and gents who's watching, thanks for your time, and we will see you hopefully next week.
It's another bang. All the Muslim cars now, whichever get up. Light up my scars with a sweet one bliss. Someone flicks me a bag by the